Hello, everyone. You are listening to Scenecraft. From opening shots to long takes and epilogues, we examine our favorite scenes from cinema here on the podcast. I'm Cody, here with my fellow footballers, soldiers, ping-pongers, whistleblowers, shrimpers, Apple investors, and endurance runners.
Mark.
And Connor.
You can find Scenecraft on most social media platforms at Scenecraft Podcast for the latest news on the show. Today, in celebration of its 30-year anniversary, we will be discussing Forrest Gump, directed by Robert Zemeckis. But as usual, let's begin with our brief What We've Been Watching segment, Quick Takes.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Before we get started here, do we have Forrest Gump here in the studio with us? I'm seeing a little haircut here, Mark.
It was getting a bit shaggy, and I thought in celebration of this movie, this podcast, it would be a good idea to get it right before we started recording today.
Yeah, it looks exactly like him.
Yeah, it looks like you're shipping off.
I drew some inspiration from him, yeah.
Nice.
Speak quickly.
Quickly, thank you.
Quickly, come on. Hurry up, quicker.
Way quicker.
Okay, I'll say it fast.
Let's start things off with a great summer movie, Snack Shack, which was directed by Adam Raymeyer and was released this year, 2024. The logline reads, Nebraska City, 1991. Two best friends get the chance to run the swimming pool snack shack that later comes to be the perfect scenario for transgression, fun, personal discovery, and romance. So here's a little peek behind the curtain, a little thing to know about us trio. It's that I think I'm probably the one that kind of goes all in and invests a lot of goodwill into certain movies even before seeing them. And
Yeah.
I'll admit that a lot of the times it kind of ends in disaster, but I come to you guys today as living proof that this pig can sniff out a truffle every once in a while. I think it's safe to say that we all liked Snack Shack, and I thought it was a decent hit amongst us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So well done to you.
Okay. That's enough praise. That's all I needed there. Here's the weird thing about this movie. I didn't even know of its existence until I was served a targeted Facebook ad. That's how I heard about this movie.
How weird.
You're on Facebook still?
Yeah, unfortunately, I am still, but I will say that they were spot on with their targeting because I'm a sucker for coming of age films and summer films, which is essentially the bullseye that this movie hits.
Mm.
It has an initially kind of overly busy start, but I don't feel like it detracts from the undeniable strength of the film, which is the chemistry between actors Connor Sherry and Gabriel LaBelle.
Mm-hmm.
They have these authentic shorthand phrases, inside jokes, and their friendship really is the beating heart of this film. And by the end of it, I actually kind of felt like they were people I knew, which I think is a tremendous strength and success of the movie. The narrative itself satisfyingly hits all those kind of beats you've come to expect with a coming of age story.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like its 90s setting and the small Nebraskan town distinguish it from other films that mine similar territory. Mm-hmm. So this one's an easy recommendation for me. If you enjoy these types of stories, Snack Shack is now available to stream on VOD.
Nice.
And for some reason, Cody, I could see you despising the name of this movie. Is that accurate? And do you feel like that was an obstacle to press play on this one?
In this case, I think it just made me think of like the B-52's Love Shack.
Mm-hmm.
Snack Shack. Other than that, I don't despise the name of the movie. It's a little surface level, but I think it's also what's going to like draw people in. Like it's quick, it's flashy, you know?
Right.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's got a nice ring to it. I like how we have, since watching this, sent each other pictures of snack shacks at like places we've gone to.
Yeah, summer snack shacks everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the other film I watched, and it is called The Boys in the Boat, which was directed by George Clooney and was released last year, 2023. The logline reads, a 1930s set story centered on the University of Washington's rowing team from their Depression era beginnings. So this movie came out at the end of last year to what I would say relative minimal fanfare. I didn't really feel the need to rush out to the theater to see it, but I kind of was curious to see what Clooney would do with his latest directorial effort. And here's the thing about The Boys in the Boat. It actually feels like a movie from a different era. In fact, one of the reasons why I chose to talk about it today was it kind of feels like it could have been released alongside Forrest Gump in the mid-90s. Both of the films kind of carry this sentimentality and deploy these grand cinematic moments. But that being said, there's no question that Gump is more successful. This film, I think it probably deserves more credit than it was given, but I definitely had some problems with its pacing. And I think it could have benefited from a greater sense of subtlety with some of its themes. But if you're looking for a family-friendly, uplifting story that doesn't really challenge you, I think it's a solid choice. So I would give a light recommendation to The Boys in the Boat, which is now streaming on Prime Video.
Cool. Yeah, this is one of those movies where I keep scrolling by it on the carousel and I keep meaning to hit play, and I think it'd be a good movie. Is it like a good family movie?
Yeah. It's a good family movie. It's a crowd pleaser. You kind of know what's going to happen. And like I said, for a movie that's kind of about adversity, it's a pretty unchallenging film. But that's fine, right? Not everybody's looking for something like that. So I think it's...
You know what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's a perfectly fine movie. Connor, what about you? What have you been watching recently?
So I've been watching a number of series lately, and the first one that I watched is The Bear, Season 3, created by Christopher Storer, and it just came out about a month ago in June. The logline for this one reads, a young chef from the fine dining world returns to Chicago to run his family's sandwich shop. So, since the new season of The Bear dropped, the text chat has been going wild, and there has been a lot of discussion over this season.
Here we go.
Cody, you introduced us to this show, and I know you and I have seen season 3. Mark, have you started it yet?
I have not.
All right. Well, in that case, Cody, you're going to want to buckle up a little bit, buddy.
Okay.
So you guys are probably sick of hearing me talk about it at this point, but just to put it on the record officially, I was not a fan of this season of The Bear. For me, it was like going to one of your favorite restaurants when the kitchen and waitstaff are having an off night. Something just felt off about the whole thing for me. I think it could be this season's storyline is just lower stakes than the previous 2 seasons. In season 1, Carmy comes back from New York to run the beef. Great concept. Season 2, Carmy and the team turn the beef into a fine dining restaurant called The Bear. Also great. Season 3, Carmy pursues a Michelin star for The Bear. Just kind of doesn't have that same weight to it, I guess, that the other seasons did. There just isn't much there this season, and it very much feels like a part 1 of a 2-part season. What we do get is a lot of the same. Quick cuts, yelling, stress, montages of Chicago, but it all feels forced and just a little bit tedious this time around, like it was someone cooking with the recipe of The Bear and they stuck too close to the formula. I won't spoil much, but I also took issue with what I saw as like a cartoonishly simple depiction of an abusive mentor whose presence haunts Carmy throughout the season. There are definitely some bright spots. Episode 6, directed by Ayo Edebiri, is one of the best of the whole series. There's a very fun cameo in episode 5 that you'll love, Mark, that brings some much-needed joy back into the show. Overall, I could see an argument that this season embodies a chef's single-minded pursuit of perfection and how he ends up creating the same kind of joyless atmosphere that he experienced working under his abusive mentor in NYC. Kind of like a you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain kind of thing. But I think that's a generous take on it personally. I like The Bear and what it's doing, which I think is why this season was so frustrating for me, but I would not recommend this season of The Bear. I really hope it bounces back for season 4, which they did shoot back to back with season 3. But go stream it on Hulu and please decide for yourself if this one lives up to season 1 and 2.
Ouch.
Wow. He kind of laid out his case. Cody, any rebuttals or...
I mean, the way you laid it out, I really can't argue with any of the logic there. I think.
Mm.
I think it's you're very well positioned on that, and I think a lot of people do share that same sentiment. Out of the 3 seasons, I would say that this is one of the weaker.
Mm.
Well, it's the weakest season out of the 3.
Okay.
I think for me, episode 1 kind of puts you in a place immediately
Yeah.
where you're gonna kind of decide in that episode then and there if what this season is doing is gonna work for you or not.
It's definitely a tonal shift from what
Yeah.
we've seen. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very montagey. I mean, the entire episode is basically a montage.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was just kind of the emotional reaction to that, and the idea of this like chef's table,
Yeah.
rotating camera, seeing them in their craft, and how these chefs will build a meal hundreds, if not thousands of times before it comes to you sitting at your table. And just developing a relationship with all these different chefs. I was just emotionally impacted,
Sure.
as well as the Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross score.
Yeah.
And whatever the aimlessness that the rest of the season brings, I think those bright spots made it worth it for me.
Okay.
And overall, I still think it's a great show operating on a high level. But at the same time, you make a great argument. And yeah, as you said, decide for yourself, and hopefully they can kind of bring it back for you next season, Connor.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great take, and I'm excited for you to watch it, Mark. Like you said, we are a trio, and more times than not, we do fall in line with one side or the other.
Yeah.
So you'll be the tiebreaker in this case.
I'm not going to lie. It's always fun being the tiebreaker.
Oh yeah, a lot of pressure.
I'm anticipating that Joaquin Phoenix Gladiator thumbs up or thumbs down gif as soon as you watch it,
Oh, yeah.
please.
Right away.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Connor, what else have you been watching?
So I recently finished watching the show Fleishman is in Trouble, created by Taffy Brodesser Ackner, and this came out in 2022. The logline is, Toby Fleishman knew what to expect when he and his wife of almost 15 years separated. Weekends and every other holiday with the kids, some residual bitterness, and the occasional moment of tension in their co-parenting negotiations. It's like an interesting logline. But I'll keep this one a bit quicker. Fleishman is in Trouble is a limited series starring Jesse Eisenberg, Claire Danes, Lizzie Kaplan, and Adam Brody. It came out a few years back, and it's based on the 2019 novel of the same name, which you're currently in the middle of reading, right, Mark?
Yeah, I had heard good things about this series, and so I figured I should probably read the book first, but I'll have to wait to hear what you say.
Yeah, well, it's a really weird coincidence that, like, I had read an article she recently wrote for the New York Times, decided, hey, I want to watch this series that she wrote, and then you just coincidentally, you started reading the book as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, there's something in the air about this show, but this series captures what it's like to have a midlife crisis for a group of financially successful early 40s Jewish people in Manhattan in the summer of 2016 before the presidential election. That's a very specific group in a very specific moment of time. But I found it to reveal a lot of universal human truths and relatability in that specificity. Its characters deal with the stress of potential and what it means for them when all the potential avenues of youth are long gone and you're left with what's become your adult life. This was very good, and weirdly, I think I liked it more for the potential of where it could have gone than where it did end up going. But it made me think a lot, and for that, I think it was successful as a piece of art. And I don't want to spoil, but episode 7 is truly great, and I'm excited to discuss with you both if you end up watching it. And I would recommend checking out Fleishman is in Trouble, which is available to stream on Hulu.
Cool. Yeah, this may be a case of one of the title thing that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, this sounds like, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But
I agree with that. Yeah, so it's a bit weird of a title.
I like it.
yeah, very intriguing. But
How about you, Cody? What have you seen lately?
so first I went to check out Longlegs, directed by
Ooh.
Oz Perkins.
Mhm.
Just came out. The log line reads, in pursuit of a serial killer across 1990s Oregon, an FBI agent uncovers a series of occult clues that she must use to end a terrifying killing spree. So Longlegs first screened back at the end of May at Beyond Fest in Los Angeles, and ever since then, the hype surrounding this movie has been off the charts. It's been like viral. And the marketing team at Neon, who acquired the film, have done a phenomenal job pushing this film through word of mouth, using pull quotes claiming that it's the best horror thriller since Silence of the Lambs. This is one of the best films of the year, best horror of the decade. There have been cryptic teaser trailers, PR stunts like an LA billboard displaying a mysterious phone number you can still call, cipher messages in newspapers, and an under 17 screening at Alamo Drafthouse, Brooklyn, where I guess bloody-faced nuns act as adult chaperones for the people under. Yeah, very interesting.
Gross.
So, but very unique nonetheless. Yeah. And bravo to Neon Marketing for all their efforts to promote this film. So going into this film, you bring a lot of that hype and all this effort with you. And Jonathan Demme's Silence of the Lambs is still a far superior film, in my opinion. But I would say for the most part, there was a lot of substance and fantastic things in Longlegs that was deserving of that viral marketing. Right from the beginning, you are disarmed by the really odd aesthetic and editorial choices, which make you lean in and immediately categorize this as art house horror, actually making an effort to do something different and stand out in the genre. It's amazingly shot. It is so creepy. And I'd say it's definitely more creepy and disturbing than it is scary in the traditional sense.
Okay.
And certainly does pay homage to Silence of the Lambs, but kind of blended with the occult elements of David Fincher's Seven, with some tonal sprinkles of Ari Aster films, recent horrors like Midsummer, Beau's Afraid, and a little humor that you find in Beau's Afraid, some of that weird humor.
Okay.
But throughout the runtime of Longlegs, what dampened the experience for me was its struggle in walking that tightrope between an artistic horror procedural, as I already mentioned, and then something more like 2013's The Conjuring. Everything just gets a little hand-wavy and dissatisfying, and it's just kind of basic horror.
Okay.
But Micah Monroe, Blair Underwood, and Alicia Witt are very good in the film. And of course, Nicolas Cage dials it up to 10 for his performance, and you have to just love him for all of that effort. He also produced the film. There's absolutely enough here to recommend Longlegs, but only if you do like the horror genre and can withstand some of that gruesome imagery. Longlegs is in theaters now.
So I'm curious, Cody. I haven't seen The Conjuring. Is it because it veers more like supernatural at the end, or is that a spoiler?
What I'll do right now is just give a little light spoiler warning to say, like, if you don't want to know anything about Longlegs, you just want to go in, experience that viral nature. But yes, the film does shift a little more supernatural than I was expecting.
Okay, so that gives me more background, and I think it almost sounds like Cure, the Japanese horror thriller.
Yes.
Have you read anything about that being an inspiration for this movie? Okay.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that referenced in like the 5 movies you should watch when prepping for Longlegs. Cure is on there. Memories of Murder is on there. Of course, Silence of the Lambs. Yeah. So it's I really would love for you guys to check it out so we could maybe come back and discuss. And it's worth the discussion anyway because of how viral, how big of a cultural phenomenon it's been this summer. So,
I'm
get back
so
to me
on the
that.
fence about like going to see this in a theater, which I'm sure would add a lot just seeing it in a theater with other people, or
it does.
waiting to watch it at home.
I also saw Fly Me to the Moon, directed by Greg Berlanti. This also just came out, I think last week. The logline reads, brought in to fix NASA's public image, marketing maven Kelly Jones clashes with Apollo 11 launch director Cole Davis as she navigates a controversial ask from the White House. I'll make this one pretty quick because beyond that logline, if you don't know much else about this film and its subversion of real-life events, just go and see it cold, just because it is fun. You cannot go wrong here. It's Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum going at it with a 1969 NASA backdrop. It's really light. It's not very challenging. It's definitely predictable, but you know what you're going to get, which is welcomed right now. It's a summer popcorn flick that doesn't have these lofty artistic ambitions or ask that much of you, but it's entertaining and clever all the same. Woody Harrelson, Ray Romano, and Jim Rash are an absolute blast in this movie. If you're a fan of any of them, they have these great little side character bit parts. It's great. This would be a really good one to see with your parents if they're visiting this summer or you're visiting them. That is Fly Me to the Moon, out in theaters now.
Awesome. So glad you loved this. I want to see this movie. I think it looks really fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
Connor, didn't you send it into our text thread that you thought I was going to be the target audience or something for this one?
Yeah, for some reason it looks a bit up your alley.
Not really sure what to make of that.
I don't know what I don't mean anything by that. It's just I think Mark would like this.
I mean, put it this way. Do you like Ford v Ferrari?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. Imagine Ford v Ferrari, elements of that, but introducing a couple little rom-com elements to that.
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually lighter on the rom versus the com than I thought it would be. And it does really immerse you in that kind of alt history, alt America setting of the space race. And I love anything space related. And even teared up once or twice, they're really doing it.
Yeah.
This is worth it. NASA's great. And yeah, it's kind of light and inspirational in that way. And
I feel like we've seen so many serious movies about moon landings, NASA, First Man type of thing. And it's nice to see this more human side.
Yeah, this is definitely the anti-First Man.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys. And now let's move into our discussion about Forrest Gump for its 30th anniversary, starring Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, and Gary Sinise, among many others.
Why are you running?
Are you doing this for world peace?
Are you doing this for the homeless?
Are you running for women's rights?
Or for the environment?
Or for animals?
They just couldn't believe that somebody would do all that running for no particular reason.
Why are you doing this?
I just felt like running.
The logline for the film reads, "The history of the United States from 1950s to the 70s unfolds from the perspective of an Alabama man with an IQ of 75 who yearns to be reunited with his childhood sweetheart." Mark, I know you are a big Forrest Gump fan. What did you think upon rewatch of the film?
Yeah, so Forrest Gump has always been a formative film. I remember watching it as a child and probably around the age of 5 or 6 years old and not really understanding what was going on.
Wow.
With some of the contextual things and what happens to some of the characters. But the thing that stuck with me was that I had this instinctual and emotional kind of draw to this movie. And because of that, I was able to follow along, even without knowing the particulars of what was going on. And I think it was the iconic quotes, the powerful score, and multiple magic movie moments that made this my favorite film of all time for a long period of time. And I think what made this movie resonate so deeply with me was its focus on character development. Sure, this film can kind of be read as a greatest hits stroll through American history, but I think that would be ignoring the very real glimpse we get into the highs and lows of characters like Forrest, Jenny, and even Lieutenant Dan. And these feel like real people that are given full arcs by the end of the film. And with this being the 30-year anniversary of the film, I feel like I was able to reassess it with a fresh set of eyes because it's probably been close to 8 to 10 years since I've seen it last. All the way through, that is. I've seen bits and pieces here and there, but what struck me about this time rewatching it was that how sincere the movie felt. And I feel like today's culture is much more cynical and ironic than in the mid 90s when Gump was released. And I feel like today it's almost uncool or looked down upon to show this level of sentimentality.
Right.
But I think it's for this very reason that I found the film to be both endearing and special after all these years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Mark. And thanks for that setup as our resident Hanksophile.
Just doing my job.
I can't imagine disliking this movie. I know we'll touch on this in a bit, but I feel like those who give this movie negative 1-star reviews or whatever on Letterboxd are just completely missing the satirical point of Forrest Gump.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you both had pretty long gaps since you had last seen it and rewatched it more recently for this episode. For me, I did the same thing exactly a year ago and rewatched this last summer after not having seen it for probably about 10 years. And it was my wife's first time seeing it as well.
Oh, that's right.
Story-wise, I knew everything that was going to happen and all the emotional heartstrings that it so perfectly pulls at. But I'll be goddamned if I didn't tear up at the ending scene. I think this movie hit me even harder in my old age, and I wasn't really expecting that.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how many iconic movie moments are in this single film. I think of Forrest Gump as a rite of passage movie in your movie career when you're younger, and I can't wait to eventually share this with my family later in life and probably, experience it all over again with fresh eyes as they see it for the first time. I really love this movie, and I always have a good time watching it.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of you. Mark, I 100% saw Forrest Gump for the first time at your house. I think I have a pretty distinct memory of that era of time because I think for a long period, it was one of those films that I had never really watched all the way through.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe catching a couple scenes here and there on Turner Classic Movies as a kid and young adult and just all the cultural references and seeing it everywhere because of its legendary status. And, of course, I knew about Run, Forrest, Run, and Life is Like a Box of Chocolates, and even more obscure lines that we three reference to this day, like Seats Taken. But I do recall watching the full movie at your house in our hometown for the first time, probably prompted by your love of the film. And both of you nailed it, I think. But Mark, there's a certain wholesome spirit that lives in this film. And I think if nothing else, the performances that Tom Hanks in particular, but also, of course, Robin Wright and Sally Field achieve just brings a tear to my eye every time I watch this. Like, particularly Tom Hanks. Like, this is one of the best performances ever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And over the years, like you said, Connor, Forrest Gump has gotten a surprising amount of criticism, citing conservative propaganda, where Forrest does what he's told, he follows the rules, he serves his country, and as a result, he becomes a wealthy hero. Whereas Jenna, who lives a more free-spirited but challenging nomadic lifestyle, is rewarded with a tragic end to her story. And while I think that's a valid read, I respectfully disagree. Like you were saying, Connor, I think the tone of the film speaks for itself and heavily leans into its satire on the American dream. There's just too much laughable serendipity and goofy alt history surrounding a single man to take this film seriously as a statement on conservative values. And even Zemeckis himself has said that the film is apolitical and, quote, a party to which everyone can bring a bottle, unquote.
That's funny.
This speaks to what you're talking about, Mark, where a certain cynical modern audience is retrofitting a tragic character arc, which mainly stems from domestic abuse, into a condemnation of free thinking. I don't think it's that at all. In fact, on multiple occasions, Forrest acts on instinct, disobeying orders in Vietnam, saving his entire platoon despite Lieutenant Dan's protests. He does it because he is a force for good with little filtration or misanthropy to dilute that goodness in him. Forrest represents idealism through the eras of American history, whereas Jenny serves as a counter to that, experiencing harsh realism.
Mhm.
I actually find that the film is very balanced in that way and beautiful, and I will choose to always view it through that lens of kindness, loyalty, and positivity, with no motive nor expectation of receiving something in return. But, it's all up for argument. That's the beauty of movies.
Yeah, well said, Cody.
Well said.
Such a shame, Connor, when you see those 1-star letterbox reviews and it's like, 1 star?
Mm-hmm.
It's like rage bait, I feel like, when they're 1-starring it. It's like, hey, take a look at me, and maybe you'll look at some of my other reviews and I'll have some other controversial takes.
Yeah.
It's like the Armin White of like letterbox users.
So with that, let's get into our scene selection, which we're going to call Running on Empty. And as with all of our scene selections, beware of spoilers ahead.
Is there anyone there?
Yes, what do you see?
Spoilers! Right ahead!
Thank you.
Connor, would you like to give us the scene beats, please?
I would love to. So this scene occurs about 1 hour and 50 minutes into the film, so pretty close to the ending. Following the tumultuous death of his beloved mother, Forrest grapples with the loss and the emptiness left behind. The scene shifts as Jenny, the love of his life, re-enters and then abruptly exits his world, leaving Forrest heartbroken once again. Struggling to find meaning and solace amidst the chaos of his emotions, Forrest retreats to his front porch, reflecting on his past. With a sudden, almost instinctive impulse, he decides to start running, beginning a journey that spans a very specific 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, and 16 hours, as well as countless miles across the American landscape. This unexpected decision becomes a powerful metaphor for his quest for clarity, purpose, and healing. During his run, Forrest traverses picturesque deserts, bustling cities, and serene countrysides, gaining national attention and inadvertently becoming a symbol of hope and inspiration. Captivated by his determination, crowds join him, but despite the fame, Forrest runs simply because he wants to. His journey continues until one day, just as abruptly as he started, he decides to stop. This decision leaves his followers bewildered, but forever changed by his incredible odyssey. So, I think a nice summary of this whole scene, but why did we choose this scene? Cody, do you want to talk us through it a little bit?
Yeah. One of the overarching themes of the film can be summarized with the famous line, "Run, Forrest, run." That scene is very early in the film, where Jenny urges Forrest to run from these bullies that are pursuing him on bikes.
Mm-hmm.
And as he starts running faster and faster, his leg braces break off, and he suddenly feels liberated and empowered to escape from his problems, running very, very fast and efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea appears throughout the rest of the film, like in his time playing football at University of Alabama, and of course in Vietnam. But it is the main thrust of this scene that we have chosen, where the theme now crescendos as Forrest faces heartbreak and then runs across the country many times, becoming a national celebrity for his Zen-like determination. Forrest is doing the only thing he knows how to do when faced with pain. And the fact that he has run so far and for so long, it's a testament to how much pain he's in at the beginning of this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And simultaneously, running is his way of feeling normalcy.
Mm-hmm.
And in his view, it is part of what has allowed people to accept him. It got him into college. It got him, a Medal of Honor. But really, at the end of the day, the beauty of the character is that he's so distinct and exceptional and does all these things out of the purity of his heart,
Mm-hmm.
not that he has to be accepted as a
Right.
quote unquote normal member of society.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to put it, Cody. And I would also add to that typically when we think about running, people will use the phrase like running away from your problems.
Mm-hmm.
But in this instance, it's actually a physical manifestation of him coping with this heartbreak. It's a therapeutic act for him, and I think that it shows him moving forward physically also helps him heal emotionally. And
Mhm.
I think it also taps into just the simplicity of his nature, but also his childlike innocence at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And thematically, there are a ton of reasons, obviously, why we chose to pick apart this scene for this episode. But in a movie that's basically one long montage, there's something about this montage in particular that stands out. Like, even when I saw it as a kid, like one of the first times, this running scene was always like one of the main ones that I thought of personally when I think of this movie.
Mhm.
So there's something really
Mhm.
just nice that stands out about this scene from an aesthetic standpoint as well. Like, it marks a clear moment in time.
Yeah.
The other thing that I enjoy about this scene is we really get the general public kind of reading into somebody that has the answer. It's like, Forrest Gump is a man of few words. He kind of acts on instinct, like we said. But so many people are seeking a leader in their life, or like somebody who has the answer, who has it figured out. And that's where we see this crowd sort of start to form and rally behind Forrest.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that this particular running scene, it was inspired by an actual event? Like, I didn't know this, but I guess in 1982, this gentleman named Louis Michael Figueroa, who was 16, he ran from New Jersey to San Francisco for the American Cancer Society, and he kind of unknowingly inspired a line in Forrest Gump, which is, "I just put one foot in front of the other." And I guess that inspired the, when I get tired, I sleep. When I
Yeah.
am hungry, I eat. When I have to, go, I go. That was just a cool thing to see, that it was actually based on, like, in many ways in this film, a real person.
Yeah. It's interesting you should bring that up too, Cody, because Forrest Gump, the film, is actually based off of a 1986 novel by Winston Groom. And interestingly enough, they did not have the running scene in the book. And
Wow.
Forrest didn't even have the leg braces, which you kind of become part of his lore. And both
Yeah.
of those things were not
Yeah.
even in the book. Instead, they were actually written by screenwriter Eric Roth and director Robert Zemeckis.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that. And I think it just speaks to like how they were able to add another historic moment to this, very serendipitous period of history where Forrest Gump is appearing at all these iconic parts of Americana. And in this scene, it seems like it was implied that Forrest jumpstarts this like well-known jogging boom of the 1970s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a book in 1977. I think it was called the Complete Book of Running, by a gentleman named Jim Fix, and he also kind of popularized this jogging craze that took place in the 70s. He actually, unfortunately, passed away from a heart attack, and that kind of brought a bunch of
Oh,
it kind of muddied the waters a little bit with the running craze, but it was a big part of the 70s for sure.
And it's just so funny how they have constructed everything so that, I mean, this is obvious, but the sheer amount of like serendipity and coincidences that
Yeah.
Forrest, this one guy, is involved with. I mean, I think it supports this idea of satire that, like, if you're just a good person and you carry on, like, that's the American dream and it will come back. It's like he follows the rules and all these incredible parts of history revolve around him and are benefited by his presence. And therein lies the parody of it, the satire.
And we see a lot of them throughout this whole scene. I think we can kind of go down the list a little bit, but this is a pretty funny scene too, in terms of just how many moments of American history and pop culture are brought about because of Forrest Gump. I think one that kind of grounds us a bit more in reality is like we see Nike get introduced, a huge brand by today's standards, but they were new in the 1970s. And the shoes that are given to him by Jenny, again, kind of reinforcing about how much that he's thinking about her throughout this entire scene, is the Nike Cortez. So it's the first big running shoe from Nike, came out in 1972, lines up with this time period pretty exactly. It's got that red, white, and blue colorway that becomes, tied through a color theme to America, to Forrest Gump, sort of contributing to these moments of America. We also see him wearing a Nike shirt a little later, and I think it could be implied that because he's become a pretty prominent figure at this point, he's seen wearing these Nike shoes as he runs across the country multiple times. Like maybe Nike sent him this shirt, as a press move to kind of like keep that publicity going for them as they start getting their footing in the running world.
Yeah, that's a great catch.
Just a couple little background bits on this particular running scene. A lot of the locations in the montage were shot in secrecy without the studio's knowledge, mostly for budgetary reasons. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Also, Tom Hanks's younger brother, Jim Hanks, was the running double for him in many of these scenes. Yeah. And there was a quote, according to Jim Hanks, Tom had other doubles, but they couldn't do the run, referring to Forrest's kind of like stiff stride that
it's
he were
very
commenting
iconic
on.
Run. Yeah.
Right.
He said that it's like a familial Hanks thing.
Yeah.
And no other, doubles could replicate that kind of geeky run that all the Hanks have.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe we can kind of talk about some of the places where we see Forrest running, because he covers quite a lot of land. This is a very gorgeous look at the vast array of different landscapes that you can find in America. It really kind of shows off our country in that you can, from state to state, you can just completely change the different environments you're in. And I think it really does help this montage stand out, kind of like you mentioned earlier, Connor, amongst all the other scenes in this movie. And I think it has to do with the beautiful cinematography and the landscapes that it captures.
Yeah. So we first see him run across Greenbow County, and he kind of builds, greater and greater amount of scale and distance that he's covering with each scene. So Greenbow County was shot in Varnville, South Carolina, but it's got this very southern feel, these backcountry roads. Then when he runs across Alabama, that was mostly shot in South Carolina and Georgia, just to get, again, more of that classic American South cinematography and landscape. When Forrest runs clear to the ocean, we see Santa Monica Yacht Harbor in California. So he's like running on that pier. It's a pretty great shot.
Yeah. And then when we watch the scene, I think you said, Connor, like he like doesn't even stop at all. He doesn't stop on the pier and like, look out to the ocean. He's just like, yep. Just
turns around
and runs to, quote, another ocean. And there we see the Marshall Point Lighthouse near Point Clyde, Maine. And then we kind of continue, all under voiceover, many different locations, a montage of locations as Forrest continues his run over the next several years. This includes, these beautiful golden wheat fields that was shot at Cut Bank, Montana.
That's my favorite. I love that one.
Oh yeah, it's just the lighting in that shot. This kind of like the golden wheat, and with the backdrop of kind of a dark saturated blue, almost like a thunderstorm had just passed. It's like absolutely beautiful. And if we could actually just insert right here the way in which these were shot, because we have a lot of crane techniques. When we see the following shot at the on the stone bridge, like we're kind of craning upward, and sort of relating to what you were talking about, Mark. That crane technique is a good way to illustrate the grandiose vistas we're seeing throughout the country. It kind of helps sell the scale of it all, and we're getting these cool movements like over top of a fence. It's kind of craning sideways but moving forward. They didn't just opt for running and gunning, which is maybe how it was, but they somehow still managed to get these like great visual language movements in the montage.
Yeah, and they all do a great job at isolating Forrest. Like, he's totally alone in all of these scenes, and it really shows how, he's not running through cities that are crowded with people. There's not even cars in any of these shots, really. We see him with like some farm animals in one, but it's truly him alone running through these scenic routes until that crowd starts to follow him a bit later on.
Yeah, so before the crowds start to follow him, he has a couple more places that he visits, including the Stone Bridge, which is set against a background of these snowy peaks. And that was at St. Mary's entrance to the Glacier National Park, which was also in Montana. And then we get these gorgeous fall shots where he's kind of running alongside the road, and you see all the changes in the colors and the trees. And that took place on Jenny Road Farm in Reading, Vermont.
Which I was going to ask you guys, do you think that that is just merely a coincidence? I mean, it's one of the most famous autumn settings on the East Coast, which is actually closed to the public now, I think. But you see a lot of iconic shots on that road leading up to this farm, and it's called Jenny Farm, which I just thought is funny.
Yeah, that is, I don't know, maybe coincidence.
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah, it must be.
We'll have to contact Zemeckis and ask.
So we get those moments where Forrest is alone, but then it cuts back to he's actually passing over a bridge. TV crews start to question Forrest on his motivation for running. That is on the Woods Memorial Bridge east of downtown Beaufort in South Carolina. That's where we kind of cut back to Jenny being the waitress in the diner. So we're like reintroduced to the public sort of experiencing his run and their analysis of it.
Don't you love Robin Wright's little line of dialogue and performance there? Like, she catches him on the TV, and her line is, what does she say? She's like, "I'll be damned, Forrest." And it's like she's happy for him. It's like she's not surprised that he's doing it.
But at the same time, she can't escape him either.
Right.
Right? You know, she leaves town, and it's like he follows her, maybe not physically, but he follows her everywhere she goes. Another thing I really liked about this too was, what were your guys' reads of the reporters asking the questions? Because this kind of gives us a unique perspective where we follow Forrest throughout the whole film, obviously. And so we know why he started running, and it's quite simple. That's the way he deals with these problems, and he just felt like it. But I thought this was an interesting use of satire and how the news crews will try to assign their own meaning on top of something that may just be as innocent as going for a run.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of media coverage paired with all of his followers that we eventually get, and looking at him as this kind of like mysterious running messiah, and how people will just inherently pull meaning from the simplest things to solve something in their own head or help heal an experience that they're having. It's just very fitting with the way that Forrest is, that he would barely say anything about his reasons for running, and people would pull inherent meaning from that.
Yeah, it was like a really good visualization of, I don't know, if you're in a meeting or something, like just to make a work example, and like the person who maybe says the least, you kind of automatically think they're like the smartest person in the room. Like, oh man, they must really be like thinking through the problem, or, you know, there's probably a lot happening up there, wheels turning. And that's not always the case. So it's funny how we assign that kind of intelligence to silence. So here's that moment where Forrest is getting a lot of press coverage. He's crossing the bridge. And right after this, we see the followers continue to grow. People catch on. He's gotten some coverage. And we start to get some of these great moments of people approaching him, trying to, again, like seek some of this meaning from problems they're facing in their own life. So when Forrest rounds a hairpin bend on an open road and realizes that he has followers, that happens on Grandfather Mountain near Linville, North Carolina. And that bend is now signposted as Forrest Gump Curve, which is very fun. When he runs through dog shit and accidentally invents the phrase "shit happens" that turns into the famous bumper sticker, that takes place in downtown Flagstaff, Arizona.
And I could have sworn when that was on cable, they censored it, and the bumper sticker just said "it happens." That could be like a Mandela effect, and I'm just inventing that, but I could have sworn that was on AMC.
Which completely defeats the entire purpose of the...
Yeah, exactly.
Then another iconic one is when he inadvertently invents the smiley face when passing the Twin Arrows trading post, which is about 20 miles east of Flagstaff. So he's got that mud that splashes on his face. He wipes his face off on a yellow shirt, and then it creates this like impossibly perfect smiley face. And he says, "Have a nice day."
Yeah, I don't know why, but I could see that bothering you, Cody. Like
No.
how nicely the smiley face
No,
turns
I
out.
think, always rounding back to what you were saying, Mark, just about modern cynicism and how this movie kind of laughs in the face of that and chooses to be really wholesome and straightforward. I'm completely fine with it in this case because like that is the tone, that is the goofiness we've expected up until this point. But the look on the dude's face who has the shirt is priceless. Like I wonder how many takes of that they got.
Yeah.
I love his comment. He's like, nobody likes this color anyways.
This ugly yellow color. Yeah, and then of course really, really iconic shot at the end of the scene. Finally after that 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, and 16 hours, Forrest ends his run in Monument Valley, Utah, at what is now known as Forrest Gump Point near Halchita, Utah, which is like, you can look up the coordinates, you can go visit, you can go do a tour of that point, and it has that beautiful backdrop of the monuments of Monument Valley, and it was a great choice to end his run in the scene there, where all of his followers kind of part like the Red Sea as he walks back. One character says,
right,
what do we do now? They're just completely lost without him, but it's a great place to end it. One of the most spectacular views you can get in this country.
Yeah, the view is incredible, and tonally, we get this nice bookend. The scene starts off with this quietness that's just, there's no sound. Forrest starts to run, and then it ends here again with that music dropping away, that silence. So there are a whopping 6 needle drops throughout this whole running montage. And Mark, maybe you could walk us through some of these great musical moments that we get throughout this entire scene.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So it actually starts with Alan Silvestri's score, which I think plays an integral role to the movie overall, but it kind of sets up the scene. I guess we can talk about it quickly here, but basically we get this crescendo of these sweeping strings, and then it leads to this dynamic pulse of the brass section. And the score overall may not be very subtle, but it feels very triumphant and inspiring. And it definitely kept me invested, and it brings a levity to the movie after, I would say some pretty dark things happen in the story.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really needed. And the theme that's played at the beginning of the scene is actually the motif that was played first when Forrest loses his leg braces.
Oh, okay.
So it's also a callback. And I think it's also highlighting the importance of running in Forrest's life, because once again, we've kind of talked about that's how he overcomes some of these emotional challenges in his life. So it was a nice little auditory callback to the importance of running. But if we go into the soundtrack, the first song that plays is "Running on Empty" by Jackson Browne, and I know that's a personal favorite of yours, kind of, right?
That's what I think of when I think of this scene. Get that "Running on Empty." It's this great driving song.
The sheer number of songs in this movie is
Bonkers.
absolutely
Yeah.
insane. The fact that they were able to get 6 different songs and an original score all within this short montage is, you think it would be overwhelming, but it fits actually pretty well.
It does.
And I think it's because it changes and transitions with the different views that we're treated to as an audience. Zemeckis made it a very important point to only use American songs to kind of be an ode to the country in that way as well. So after "Running on Empty," we get another running song, which is "It Keeps You Running" by the Doobie Brothers. And then we move on to "I've Got to Use My Imagination" by Gladys Knight and the Pips. And then one of my personal favorites, which is "Go Your Own Way" by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, yeah.
Such a great, because during the solo, that's when the shit happens. Bumper sticker kind of takes place, and it's
Yeah.
just perfect. And then we move on to the song "On the Road Again" by Willie Nelson, and then we finish off with "Against the Wind" by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
Nice.
Yeah. And this is very clever, but and I don't know if it was just Zemeckis picking these out with editorial, or if I don't recall if they had a music supervisor on the film or not, but I do know that these tracks were actually kept in the cut in editorial as temp, not necessarily expecting they'd be able to get all of them, but the studio kind of relented and ended up wanting to spend the money because they all work so well, and it seems like they were successful.
Mm-hmm.
Each of them have the joint feature of being thematically relevant in its title and theme of the song, along with just being a good momentum and really upbeat and keeping the montage rolling forward.
Definitely. So obviously this movie is pretty fantastical in terms of what's happening here, but one thing we looked into was the running pace and the actual distance that Forrest is completing throughout his entire journey. So a few years ago, a fan took it upon themselves, along with a massive forum of fans on Reddit, to try to calculate Forrest's average running pace across his multi-year journey. They calculated that his average during solo running would have been about 6 minutes and 27 seconds per mile, which is insanely fast. And his average running group pace was 8 minutes and 52 seconds. So this was all estimated using the existing shots from the film as Forrest ran across these known landmarks we just talked about, such as the bridge at Glacier National Park, while also calculating timing based on the official route as seen in Bubba Gump restaurants.
Yeah, they have all these maps in each restaurant that shows the route. And I guess it's estimated that he likely ran around 15,000 miles.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep.
And he must have gone through, multiple pairs of shoes, I would imagine. I guess they don't really talk about that, but...
Well, I think that's why that was such a big moment when Jenny gives him that pair of Nike Cortez shoes, and he probably runs them into the ground. We see his costume change a little bit over this 3-year period of running, but a lot of the time he's just wearing this same outfit that he started running in, this plaid shirt. We see him with pants in the beginning, but then it's shorts by the end of it. So it goes from khaki shorts to running shorts. And he's even wearing a tracksuit at one period of time.
Yeah. And in addition to the shoes kind of being a constant, he also continues to wear the Bubba Gump shrimp hat as well. Yeah. And so I think that keeps his character pretty grounded, and it also just visually depicts his connections with his past, with Bubba and Lieutenant Dan with his hat, and then Jenny with the shoes. And so I think it's, once again, just a really clever visual cue to relay some of that information to the audience.
Yeah, but totally gets a little gross when you start thinking about the realities of it. Is he changing his underwear, changing his socks?
Right.
How much is that happening?
Totally.
In addition to that, I'm just to have the financial liberty to run across the country for 3 years, I started to kind of question that. But then I remembered, all of his previous financial successes had allowed him to do something like this.
What did you guys think of Tom Hanks's beard? It's a prosthetic, I believe, but it kind of reminded me of Castaway.
I think it really feeds into that image you were referring to. I think it might have been you, Cody, about the Messiah figure.
Oh, yeah.
And you use the imagery of the Red Sea parting at the end.
Right.
When he's kind of walking through the group of people. He also kind of has a robe as well.
At that point.
I don't know what it was exactly, but yeah, he really kind of embodies that imagery towards the end of his run.
Yeah.
He's about to say something.
Right. A couple other bits I think that are worth covering. Connor, can we do a little title talk for Forrest Gump?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've got probably one of the greatest movie posters of all time here. I mean, it's just a classic. There's not a lot to the actual, I'd call logo or word mark for the movie. It's Forrest Gump. We have Tom Hanks's name kind of nestled above it. It's in these tall, very high contrast serif letters. It almost feels like something that we've seen on a book cover. So it, alludes to the fact that this is a story. It's a novel. It's got this, like, if you can remember or hold the image of the poster in your head, it's like a stark white background with just Forrest Gump on the bench. So we're sort of seeing him from behind. And to me, I think it does a nice job of visualizing a couple things. It almost feels like a memory or a flashback, like the way that we're immersed in this white world. And it lines up with the fact that we're living his memories throughout this entire movie. The other thing that it nods to is him being just alone in his life and having to navigate life. There's an empty spot next to him on the bench. Obviously, that speaks to the many people that come and hear his story, sit on that bench, but it also embodies what's not there. His mom's not there. Jenny's not there. Bubba's not there. Even Lieutenant Dan. It's just him leading this life, throughout this entire story that we're seeing. So it all has this very like ethereal quality to it, like atmospheric, and it feels very fantastical too. I know we've said that word a couple times, but you just feel like you're in for something that has like a bit of imagination and whimsy to it. So I think it captures that all pretty nicely. And of course, you get that red, white, and blue motif that's repeated throughout the film and nods to America and the history of this country.
Well done, Connor. Yeah, that's really cool. And I know that there's like an alt poster of sorts or an alt type treatment where it has the feather.
Oh, yeah.
The feather
that's
motif
nice
next to it. I'm curious to hear what you guys think of the feather. To me, my read on it would be something like it's kind of this graceful and light, ever moving, ever flowing visual motif. Of course, obviously representing Forrest kind of moving through the eras of history, always kind of tumbling with the wind. But I wasn't sure, Mark, in particular, if you know anything about the feather.
For me, I always loved that motif, and specifically the main theme of Forrest Gump. With Alan Silvestri's score, it kind of plays and it bookends the beginning and the end of the film. But to me, the feather kind of represents the randomness of life too. The wind kind of takes it where it will, and
that's nice.
It ends up in different places, and people do different things with it, right? So at the end, we see it kind of land into the Curious George book before he gives it to Forrest Jr. at the end. So I think it just kind of has to do with the randomness of life and the different places it may take you.
Nice.
I think that's a pretty beautiful note to end on. It feels like a nice, succinct way to wrap this up. So well said.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been so nice to revisit this film for its 30th anniversary. Can't believe it's been that long.
Oh, crazy.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you for your thoughts. As always, it's been really fun to celebrate this great film. And thank you to our listeners and fellow movie enthusiasts for reliving this scene with us. Do you have a favorite scene from Forrest Gump? You can email us at contact@scenecraftpodcast.com with any of your thoughts or comments. Or follow us on most social media platforms at Scenecraft Podcast for any scheduling updates and news. You can support the podcast by leaving us a review or star rating on your platform of choice. A very special thanks, as always, to Jordan Summerlad for our theme music. This has been Scenecraft, where we break down the craft behind our favorite scenes. See you all next time.